Hi everybody, welcome to our channel. And on this country road, we're going on a drive here in Oklahoma, and we thought we'd do a little video. Our son's in the car with us, so if you hear some noises from him, he's chatting away. This is the wife. My name's Jenica. First time really talking on here. I'm with Jared, so I guess he'll add some commentary, but I just wanted to talk about some of the things he's been talking about, and one issue that's been really important to me that I've kind of been watching is our food supply. And I don't know how bad it is because the mainstream media won't let you know, and I don't know how much research you can really do into this, but if you think a little bit logically, you can look at all the fires that are going on, all the floods that are going on. Here in Kansas, we have a lack of rain, and our corn crops they look dead. The stalks are all brown.
A lot of them anyway.
Yeah, a lot of them anyway. Let's say most of them. And when we go to our local grocery store, the corn doesn't look pretty and green. It's an ugly brown color. And some of the crops, as we're driving, we do a lot of drives and we see a lot of crops. These ones look pretty good, but some of them you get to it and they're wilted. They're not getting enough rain. And I don't know what it's like in your part of the country or around the world, but like I said, with the fires and floods and all the bad weather, I can imagine that all these crops are being destroyed or not growing. The lack of water in places like Arizona and stuff, it's got to be really hard on the crops there too. And we get a lot of stuff from the California and Arizona, here in Kansas, corn obviously. We lived in Arizona. And they did corn there too, and oranges, and I don't quite remember what else. Cotton, but I don't think cotton needs much rain.
It's a lot of, there's a lot of citrus, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of citrus in Arizona. We've got grapes in California, and I don't know what else they grow there, but I'm sure there's plenty of, I'm sure it's great weather to grow plenty of crops, but with all the fires, I don't know what's been burned up. So something we've been thinking about really importantly lately is food storage. And it's something we've tried to our whole marriage to build up, but we've dipped into it many times when we've needed to, and we're building it up again, but very slowly. But I think it's really important to put a lot of our means into food storage with what we can afford. And on a Facebook page that we follow, someone mentioned it's really good, even if you can't afford it, just to keep trying to build it, even if it's just 1 can a month. But
how much do you think that we have right now in our garage?
Well, in our garage and in the house, we probably have, it's hard because I think about dinners, but with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we probably have about a month or 2 worth of food.
And we just built that up slowly, just kind of buying extra cans of food and stuff just here and there.
Yeah. And I know the church does a lot of stuff with preparation, and I know they aren't talking about it much lately, but they've talked about it in the past, so it's just as much important today as it was then, and I'd say even more importantly now that we're getting near the end times, the last days.
Yeah, and one of the last videos that I did, I was talking about this hurricane that's starting to develop that looks like it's going to hit Louisiana, and if you're there, hopefully you have food storage, and but regardless of where you are in the country or in the world, we should always have it, because you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And even better, if you're able to do what we're doing and homestead,
Yeah, that's why we chose to homestead. We saw I'm sure Jared's covered it in some of his other videos, but we were so concerned about the way our country was heading that we thought it would be a good idea to have a means to survive would get cheese. So now we have a dairy cow, and we'll have cheese, and I'll be able to survive.
Which we're probably not going to get milk until early 2023, I think, is like the earliest. But you know, we're on our way. We have our heifer and we have our bull. So
yeah, better late than never.
Yeah.
And it's easy to homestead. It's not as bad as it sounds. Like, I remember us talking about it, and we're like, well, we don't know anything about it. We've never done anything with it before. We don't have any family who's done it except Jared's grandma, but she's passed away. We couldn't ask her questions.
Great grandma,
sorry. And we didn't know what we were doing. We watched a lot of Homestead YouTube channels and kind of got an idea of what they do, and
frankly, it doesn't really seem like anyone really knows what they're doing.
Yeah, they all these channels say they didn't know what they were doing. They just jumped in, what's the word, feet first, or hit the ground running and just learned as they went. And that's what we did. You make a lot of mistakes and you learn as you go, and they're not detrimental mistakes. We don't make a lot of money, but we're able to purchase animals and feed them, and it's really not so bad.
Yeah, it's not as expensive as you'd think. We have some family that, you know, has talked about it and tried to discourage other people from doing it because animals are expensive, but they're not. I guess it depends on what you're doing, but you know, we have something like 15 to 20 chickens. We have a goose, we have 2 turkeys, we have 5 guineas. Let's go this way. And then what else we have? We have our 4 cows.
Yeah, and we got a lot of cats. Because our cat just had babies. We're feeding a lot of cats right now.
Yeah, so I don't know. I wouldn't let the cost of animals discourage you.
Yeah, and one thing to cut down on your chicken feed costs is you can feed them your leftover food. So if you have food you're not eating, they're just like garbage disposals. You can feed them your food. I know, like onions, you don't want to feed them onions because your eggs will taste like onions, but you can feed them most anything. There's things that aren't healthy for them, like bread, but in small quantities you can still give it to them. But we give them our leftover spaghetti that we're not going to eat, our the leftovers from our canning, all the pits and whatnot from our tomatoes or whatever, and you can feed those to your chickens. And if for some reason you can't afford to feed that month, and you just cook them stuff from in your kitchen. We do oatmeal, we've done frozen vegetables, we've done canned vegetables, canned beans. So chickens are easy.
And it's ideal if you can have them free range, because that's where a lot of their food comes from.
Yeah.
Of course, you need to buy them like feed, you know, usually like pellets or crumbles. They have different types. Like they have different. They've formulated all these different types of feed. Like they have ones that are specifically for like egg layers, and that's usually what we get because that's our main thing is getting eggs. But there's like several different types. They even have a type for like, it's called like a feather fixer. I guess if like your chickens are running low on feathers, because sometimes like they fight, or like if you run into a situation where you have too many roosters and then they get on your hands and kind of like pull out the feathers, and then you finally fix that problem and get rid of the roosters, and you need to get those feathers back. They have feather fixer that you can buy.
And the thing is it may sound, you know, they have a lot of things like, oh, get oyster shells for this, and like you said, feather fixers for this, but we've had chickens for over a year now, and all we've ever needed to buy them was just regular feed. We haven't had to buy any of the extra stuff. So don't worry that you have extra things you need to buy them all the time. They have treats and stuff, but you just need the bare minimum for chickens, and they'll survive. Clean water and free ranging and layer pellets. And we also do scratch.
And well, yeah, you also need to do scratch because it encourages them to, like it helps them get rocks and stuff in their belly because it helps them digest their food. So if you have them like in an enclosed building where there aren't rocks because it's inside, like a garage or something like that, then they have, I can't remember what it's called, but they have like these little pellets that will basically stand in for rocks. So, but if they're outside, then that's not really an issue. You just buy the scratch, which is made up of like corn and like other little seed type things, and you throw it on the ground in the dirt, and then they eat it from there. Yeah.
There's even a process called, you can ferment your chicken feed, and I don't know what the process is. I haven't looked it up yet, but it's something I'm going to look into because I think it's either healthier for your chickens or cheaper for you or something. So there's also that process you can look up, fermenting your chicken feed. Yeah. So chickens are easy, and cows are super easy, especially dairy cows, because they just all they need is grass. You can still feed them grain if you want to, but literally all they need is grass is for your dairy cows. They'll survive on that.
Well, but from what I read, like usually they'll do grass and then they'll do corn silage.
Oh, right.
Which is where silage is basically where you take like something like corn, and I think usually it's like chopped up and then you leave it out and it ferments.
Like the corn husks and stuff, right?
I guess so, yeah.
And the plant.
And then it turns into kind of like a mush or whatever. And I guess that's like good for cattle. But from what I read, they do grass, just like grass fed, and then I think it just depends, because like a lot of people do it professionally as dairy farmers and stuff like that. So they're probably a lot more concerned about Benjamin.
I know he's being so loud.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Just sit down. Do you want your tablet?
Anyway, for people that do cattle professionally, ranchers and dairy farmers, they're going to be a lot more, I think, concerned about diet and stuff like that. But I don't think you have to necessarily go to those lengths. And, we're not really doing that. We buy them like cracked corn, and there's also like cattle cubes, and we have salt licks. Because that's one way, like if they're not if they're missing certain things in their diet, then you can give them a salt lick as a supplement. So you just have to like look into it. But our experience is that it's not really that hard.
No, feeding cows is cheap too. Cow feed is cheap. I think for like a 50-pound bag, we spend like $9 for a bag.
Yeah. And then you can buy hay bales as well. They have like alfalfa. That's like $122 or $125 last time I saw it, but that's for like a huge like round bale of hay. And if you only have a few cows like us, like that's gonna last you a long time.
Yeah, we've had this bale of hay out since winter, and they're still not done eating it. And we've used it for bedding and all kinds of stuff. So.
And there's different types of bales of hay. There's like here, there's like the local prairie grass. You can buy that for $35, and it's a big bale of hay, big round bale. Or for like $75, you get crabgrass, which is like better quality, has more in it than just like regular grass.
The prairie hay, it's not as nutritious, but it'll keep your cows alive. So there are options like that if you don't have the money 1 month to feed your cows. That could work.
And we have a new guy that we're buying our hay from. We haven't bought any yet, but we probably will in the next month or two in preparation for winter. And he mentioned like a couple other types, I can't remember. So there's like different types of hay that you can get. But if you do just like a small family farm like us, one of those big round bales of hay is going to go, you know, a long ways for you.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm paying attention to this guy.
Well, I'm driving, so you don't need to worry about that.
So yeah, the raising animals is really inexpensive, and you can do it. And it's great to process your own. It's cheaper. I've watched YouTube videos of people who break down their meat costs, and how much paying the butcher and getting your meat, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper to process your own food with all the food you spend on them and getting them. Yeah, it's cheaper. It ends up being cheaper. So you can do pigs and cows, and people eat goats and chickens, and it all just turns around to be cheaper.
And since you raise them, you know that they lived in good conditions and were treated well, so that's like another reason to do it.
Yeah, and you know what's going in their diet, and not a bunch of hormones and fillers and stuff that's just not good for you to eat.
And you know, just taking care of animals and raising animals, like it's fulfilling, you know. I mentioned in another video that I feel like our Heavenly Father is basically a homesteader, because he has his family, he has a home, he has land, he has animals, and he takes care of all of it and tries to get everybody to meet their highest potential. And so, you know, if you can have like a small family farm or homestead, you're kind of like getting into that pattern of living. Like, you can do it, obviously, like you can have, you don't have to have a homestead, but it just like, it takes it to that next level.
Yeah,
is all I'm saying.
I feel like it's real work. It's not going to a computer and doing stuff. It's actually working like what they did back in the day, working on a farm or a ranch. It's real life work, and it's really good for the soul.
Yeah. Now, ironically, I don't know if we would have been able to really do this if it wasn't for computers, because I do all my work on the computer because I'm a graphic designer, and the internet makes it possible. And I don't know, I think a lot of different opportunities are opening up to people like me, like us. We mentioned that we have another family that just moved here from Idaho because he's able to work online. And so as people are moving from California to all over the West, you have a lot of people in the West that are moving out of places like Utah and Arizona, Idaho and stuff, and they're moving toward the center of the country, where home prices are amazing and you get so much more for your money. You get land, you get outbuildings, and when I say outbuildings, I mean like barns and sheds and workshops and chicken coops and you name it. Like, you know, on our property we have a stream, which like, I never thought that I would ever have a property that has a stream on it, but we do. And it wasn't expensive to buy this property.
Yeah, moving out here is what helped us homestead. We're saving a lot of money on our home. Our rent we were renting a home back in Arizona, and it was so much more than buying this house. So with that extra money, we're able to homestead and do other things that we weren't able to do in Arizona.
Yeah. It's just crazy because we lived in the Southwest Valley of in Phoenix. Okay, so if you're familiar with that area, kind of like by Buckeye, Surprise, Goodyear, we lived in that area, and it's really nice. And we lived in a really nice neighborhood with an HOA and all that. And the backyard was fully, there was like a wall, you know, because it's all like cookie cutter homes, and they're all that way. So everyone has like a walled in backyard. And it was a comfortable home and all that stuff, but like, I'm so much happier here in this home that costs only a fraction of the price and comes with all these things, you know. If you haven't seen my other video, we have a 2-car garage. We have, and in that garage there's 2 workshops, one of which we're using for a chicken coop. And then our property is fully fenced for animals. We have we have 2 driveways. Like we have a grass one that leads up to the garage, and then a cement one that goes up to the house. We have a big shed / barn type of thing. We have a regular shed, and then we have like a family backyard, and that's separately fenced in.
And it's nice just to have so much space. Back in these cookie cutter homes, you have, it's crazy because we drive around and I look at these homes and like, look at that home, look at that backyard, and it's a big backyard, but it's not as big as our property. You have so much to do. You can run around. The kids love to play. Their imagination grows on such a big area of land, and it's really great to see.
And we live in town. We're kind of like at the edge of town, but we live in town. And, with our 2 acres, like, we have privacy. Even though we do have neighbors, like, they're so far away. And then especially at nighttime when it gets dark, it's like you might as well be living out in the country because no one can see you, and you can just walk outside, enjoy the cool night air, as you're putting the chickens in for the night and doing all that stuff. So we have privacy, much more than we ever did in that home back in Arizona. I don't know. It's just amazing. I would encourage anybody, if you're at all thinking about it, if it's a possibility for you, just get on Zillow and look at these places that are here in Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Iowa, Nebraska. It's almost like a secret, you know. If you've never looked, you'll look and you'll be amazed at what there is over here.
Right. The home we have is a little older, but as most church members know, it's not the material things that matter. We lived in a nice HOA home. It was big, and it was something we used to want, and we dreamed about having a home in an HOA community that was really nice but very expensive. But this type of lifestyle, having a homestead and a smaller cozy home and one that we can fix up together, and it's like we said before, it's more fulfilling than living in a cookie cutter life, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, and it's amazing, like when you're doing renovations to your home, like how much just painting the walls and the trim, how far that goes to changing the mood in your house.
Yeah.
Like that's what we did, because before it was all just that generic kind of wood color, and it just dated, something that you would see back in the 80s or 90s. And we painted the trim just like a dark grayish brown color, and it made all the difference in the world. And then in our girls' room, we painted their walls gray with white trim, and
we put up corrugated metal on one of the walls, and it looks great. So, and out here you can get corrugated metal for, well, most places. Some places you can get it for free. Most places, well, just everywhere, people are selling it all over Facebook. And go ahead.
If you don't know what corrugated metal is, it's like that tin roofing metal, or that wavy metal that's usually old looking, and it's rusty. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It makes for a really good interior aesthetic to your home.
And it was fairly easy to put up on our wall. You just have to cut it and nail it in.
So anyway, for me, it's worth it. I was not as happy living in an HOA, even though the home was nicer.
No.
We have so much more room here, and we're able to do all these amazing things, like owning cattle, because obviously you can't do that in an HOA, and you know, comparing how I felt there to here, I feel so much more prepared in case there's an emergency, because we literally have animals that we can butcher if we need to. We have a large garden, which this was just our first year and we haven't gone too far with it, but like we have plenty of space for a garden. We have 3 fruit trees that we put in this year, which in like about 3 years they'll start producing fruit. So it's just like it's amazing. Like
yeah. It's so nice to also know that you did it on your own. It's really fulfilling to know you grew your own food and canned it all, and I made some salsa the other day, and I didn't get the cilantro and the green onions and everything I wanted to planted, but I would have been so excited if I could have been like, this whole batch of salsa is all from my garden. It's a really special feeling.
Yeah.
So I guess we can end here, but we just wanted to, with the times that we're in, I think it's really important to be prepared, and we have felt for us the best way to be prepared was to have a homestead and also have food storage. It's
not even necessarily all about preparing. It's just like, for me, it's a better way of life. It's more fulfilling, and I feel a lot better than living in a city.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening, you guys.
If you haven't already, please subscribe. Like this video if you liked it, and hit the notification bell, and we'll talk to you next time.